everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Monique Coleman, and I am one of the co-chairs of the election committee, along with Leah Graham, my co-chair. Thank you so much for coming to our second candidate forum. This is your opportunity to meet the candidates, hear their voices, learn where they stand on the issues, get to know them better. We've chosen our election dates, which will occur at the end of June, starting at our annual meeting on June 25th for early voting. The 25th will be at Dreiser Loop during our annual meeting, and then we'll have early voting on Thursday and Friday at Einstein and Bartow, and then again at Bartow on our big election day, which will be June 28th. So again, anything you hear tonight will help you to become more informed. We hope that you'll learn something about the candidates, and when you do, that you'll share that information with your neighbors. Our election theme this year is community, and in the spirit of community, we hope that what you learn, you will tell 10 other people, and when it's time to vote, you'll bring 10 other people. So I want to introduce you to our invited guests from the League of Women Voters. Our moderator tonight is Kai Rosenthal, who's co-president of the New York City League of Women Voters, and she's accompanied by Deborah Brodheim, also co-president of the League of Women Voters, and Deb will be our timekeeper tonight. Let me tell you a little bit about the League. So the League is a nonpartisan organization dedicated to action. The League does not support any political party or candidate or slate of candidates. The League has a long history of hosting and moderating debates and forums across New York and the rest of the country. Tonight, we're going to be allowing our candidates an additional 30 seconds for their opening remarks, because during our last forum, we inadvertently gave one candidate additional time, and in order to remedy that situation, tonight all candidates will be granted an additional 30 seconds. We'll return to our 1-minute format at our next forum, but tonight our candidates will have a minute and a half for their openings. So we're asking you to listen carefully, listen thoughtfully, and again, when the event ends, don't let the conversation stop here. Tell 10 people, bring 10 people, and let the voting begin. Thanks so much. Kai, please review the candidate rules and audience procedures and expectations. Thank you.
Thank you, Monique. For more than a century, the League of Women Voters has sought to make democracy work by holding events like this so that voters like you can hear the views and observe the behavior of candidates on a range of issues relevant to this community. This is why we ensure all candidates agree to the debate procedures. Further, by being here today, we ask you as the audience to agree to some expectations. The League has used procedures like these for over 60 years to ensure a fair process and encourage civil discourse. I will now read the rules out loud. This will take about 3 minutes, so please bear with me. 1, each candidate will have a minute and a half for opening statements, as just explained by Monique. 2, each candidate will have 1 minute for closing statements. 3, questions have been submitted by shareholders and the Riverbay Co-op City Election Committee and selected by the League of Women Voters. 4, there will be up to 7 questions of 1 minute response and 1 15-second lightning round question. 5, every candidate will be asked the same questions by me, the moderator. 6, I will make every effort to vary the order in which candidates are asked questions. 7, there will be a League timekeeper, Deb Brodheim. 30 seconds from the end of any given time period, the speaker will be alerted of the time remaining. Candidates who ignore time signals may have their speaking time reduced, and or those not violating the rules may be given extra time. 8, there will be no rebuttals. 9, the forum will last approximately 2 hours. 10, the Riverbay Co-op City Election Committee will record each forum. It will be posted in its entirety from the opening through the closing. No other recording is allowed. To maintain the recording as a nonpartisan and unbiased communication from the board, no clips may be aired without permission from the Riverbay Co-op City Election Committee. Still photos are permitted. 11, no campaign literature may be displayed. And 12, audience interruptions take away from candidate time and will not be tolerated. Any audience member who violates league procedures or disrupts the forum by ignoring audience expectations after being warned may be asked to leave. And before I review audience expectations, the Riverbay Co-op City Election Committee and the League of Women Voters will allow candidate Grace Solomon accommodations for tonight's forum. Ms. Solomon is profoundly deaf in both ears and relies on lip reading and closed captioning technology to participate. She has a separate table in order to set up her assistive technology and a wireless microphone. A green card will be raised when it is her turn to speak. The other candidates are aware of these accommodations. Lastly, we're here today because we believe that civic engagement involves voter education and that the governing of your building rests on you, the voters. So we have some expectations for you. 1, please be sure your cell phones are turned off or silenced, and please don't block the doors or the camera. 2, the purpose is to hear from candidates, so let's focus on their voices. 3, please remain seated and silent during the forum. And 4, as moderator, I will stop the debate if the audience interrupts. Interruptions reduce the time for candidates to speak, and we're here to listen and learn from them. 5, to repeat, the league policy permits only authorized recordings of these forums. Taking clips or segments is not authorized. And 6, any audience member who violates the agreed procedures for the forum or who disrupts the forum by ignoring these audience expectations after being warned may be asked to leave. I'm going to move back to the table to start with our opening statements and questions. So I will now ask the audience to applaud briefly after each candidate's opening statement, and then to please hold all applause and other responses until after the closing statements. So we're going to begin with Adalia Reyes for opening statements. And just as a reminder, everyone gets 1 minute and 30 seconds for opening statements.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming, and thank you all for those watching at home. My name is Idalia Reyes, and I've been a resident of Co-op City for the last 25 years. It is with great pleasure that I have decided to throw my hat in the ring to become part of the board of directors. I am the president of my building, as well as the VP of the Spanish American Club. I'm also part of the NAACP, and I have a background in corporate finance for over 30 years. I am a team player, and I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and do what I have to do to make Co-op City better again. It's time to get the right people in place, time to get our business in order, and time to get on the right track. The confidence is missing in Co-op City, and we needed to get back on track. So I've dealt with a lot of people in Co-op City and spoke to a lot of residents, and the confidence is gone, and we need to come together as one. And I'm here to do that at whatever, I have a passion for it, and I'm ready to do it and deal with the board and just learn, because it's my first time running. So thank you all.
Thank you. Shakara Cujo, your opening statement.
Hi, yes. Hi, Co-op City family. I'm Shakara Kajo. I'm a wife, a mother, a daughter, a sister, and also your neighbor. I'm excited to officially say that I'm running to be your next Co-op City board member. Co-op City has been my home for 17 years. And for me, I love the amazing community events and all the ways and the funny and very entertaining ways that we communicate. When I become a board member, I plan to lead with integrity and use my skills to create goals, to create a plan and execute them with a budget-friendly mindset. I want to make sure Co-op City continues to be safe, affordable, and an inspirational place to live. That includes the retirees who have paved the way for us and our hardworking parents that bring up the next generation, and the growing number of singles who are building their future right here in this community. I'm running because I believe I could add a fresh element to our board, financial literacy, and when making hard decisions, I always keep a shareholder's mind in my mind. I ask that you invest in me with your vote, Shakara Kajo. Thank you.
Thank you. Daryl Johnson.
Yes, hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Daryl Johnson. I want to thank everyone for coming out to see. Here's the thing I want everybody to think about, okay? When we have these board elections, you have to ask yourself, why do 2 or 3 out of 3 shareholders refuse to vote? Why do some shareholders say that they completely dislike this board and some directors? They feel that some directors are just not working for the best interests of this community, and that's a problem. All right, we need to have good directors on this board here that will serve you in the proper way. My whole thing is about the reason to help this community. All right, to help this community.
You got to speak directly.
It's about. Okay, thank you. The mic is very close to me now. Now they turned it up. They turned it up now. Okay. So my whole thing is about working with integrity. Okay, doing things in the proper way, working for the best interests of this community here. We've had tremendous current charge increases. Okay, you need directors on this board that are very, very good with budgets, finance, accounting, and they can teach, write excellent viewpoints, and educate this community and other board directors and management about our development here, about Riverbay Corporation. Okay. We had a budget that just recently went from 208. My microphone went out, but that's okay. There you go. Everybody knows there you go.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Keith Logan.
Good evening, fellow shareholders. My name is Keith Logan. For 18 years, I've had the privilege of living and working in this vibrant community. At 43, I'm blessed with an amazing wife and 3 incredible children who are the center of my life. Other than my family, there's nothing more important to me than to not only keep this community affordable, but sustainable for generations to come. I started at Riverbay as a temporary painter. That would lay the ground for my career. I became foreman of painting and plastering here in Co-op City, and my passion for quality work would allow me to become my own boss and entrepreneur. I want to serve this community I love, but only with your vote can we build a thriving corporation for all of us. Vote for me, Keith Logan, Kevin Lambright, Bishop Angelo Rosario, Grace Solomon, and Darnell Lopez. We are Team Unity. Thank you.
Thank you. Grace Solomon.
Hello, everyone, and good evening. My name is Grace Solomon, and I am profoundly deaf in both ears. Since childhood, I've worked very hard making personal sacrifices in order to achieve my dreams and find success in life. For the past 25 years, I have been a shareholder here in Co-op City and a full participating member of this community. Shareholders, I have over 35 years of experience and knowledge serving as a New York City teacher, an assistant principal, a principal, and a school superintendent. Right here in the Bronx, I opened a school for students with special needs. These were students who were not allowed to attend preschool, and their parents were looking for something that their children could have an advantage and an early childhood start in life. All my life, I have believed in my abilities. I really truly believe that I can do this job. I really truly believe in my heart that I can be a successful board director here in Co-op City. Please vote for me, Grace Solomon. And I'm also asking you to
Thank
vote
you.
for the
Thank
entire
you.
Unity team.
Thank you.
you.
Darnell Lopez.
Good evening. I'm Darnell Lopez with Team Unity. I am a seasoned financial professional with over 14 years of experience. Raised in Co-op City, I've returned to my community as a shareholder, demonstrating my enduring commitment to the area. I am the founder of the Co-op City Basketball Tournament, a tournament that has been a staple in the community, providing youth with opportunities to engage in athletics and build camaraderie. My deep roots and professional background position me as a candidate who understands this community's needs and possesses the skills to address them effectively. My campaign emphasizes transparency, community engagement, and the empowerment of residents through education and collaboration. Vote Team Unity, Kevin Lambright, Keith Logan, Bishop Angelo Rosario, Grace Solomon, and me, Darnell Lopez. Thank you.
Thank you. Leslie Peterson.
Hello. Good evening. My name is Leslie Peterson, and I'm proud to stand before you as a candidate for the Riverbay Board of Directors. I've been a part of this community for many years, not just as a resident, but as someone who works every day to improve the quality of life for all of us. I care deeply about preserving the values of Mitchell-Lama housing, keeping Co-op City affordable, safe, and truly livable for every resident. With a background in property management and degrees in business administration and urban affairs, I bring both professional knowledge and practical experience to the table. I know how important it is to get maintenance and repairs done quickly and efficiently, because when things are delayed, our lives are affected. I work to make sure problems are addressed and not passed over. I also believe in being visible and available. I serve on committees, attend meetings, and most importantly, I listen. I've already had the pleasure of meeting many of you, and I'm committed to continuing those conversations, whether it's helping a neighbor get the answers they need or pushing for improvements that benefit everyone. I do this work because I care. I'm running to be your voice on the board, to protect what we've built, and to make sure this community remains strong, connected, and affordable for generations to come. Thank you for your time and support. Vote for Leslie Peterson, Anika Green Watson, Adalia Reyes, and Leah Richardson. We are stronger together. Thank you.
Thank you. Bishop Angelo Rosario.
Yes, my name is Bishop Angelo Rosario. I've been living in Co-op City for 34 years. I worked for management for 25 years. I've had a house of worship here for 34 years and created many different programs. The only reason I stayed here in Co-op City is because I love this community. My children were brought up here. I have 8 daughters and 2 sons, and they're all done very well here. And one of the things that I want to see for the very near future is that we have a community that is going to last for all our children, for all our people, for every individual that lives here, for people with special needs that live here with us, and that we could take care of each other as one wonderful family that God has given us. I believe very strongly that Co-op City could be the beacon to the Bronx. I believe that we could create many different programs that are going to enhance us in the future. One of the things I would like for us to think about, that we're shareholders, we're part owners of this corporation. And we need to be able to think about management, how we manage it, but we also have to think about in a business form, how do we make good business decisions that are going to help us in the very near future. So I ask you to vote for Bishop Rosario, Keith Logan, Mr. Lopez, Donnell, and my queen, Grace Solomon, and also,
Thank you.
I forgot Kevin.
Thank you.
That's all right.
Ms. Anika Green Watson, please, your opening statement.
Good evening, Election Committee, volunteers, fellow candidates, and all of the neighbors who braved the weather to be here tonight. It is my distinct pleasure to sit here before you today as a candidate for the 2025 Riverbay Board election cycle. By way of introduction, I'm Anika Green Watson. I've lived in this community we all call home for 30 years, moving here initially as a child with my parents, then making the decision to raise my own family here, similar to how some other people have said. My husband and I are and have always been very active members of this community, be it building organizations, civic organizations, or otherwise. We have 2 children and both have lived in Co-op City their entire lives. I'm also one of your current board directors. I've spent the last 4 years on the board, actively working to maintain and even improve this community so we can all enjoy it for years to come. As far as working background goes, I have over 25 years of experience in finance, management, operations, risk, and even capital modeling, all in the banking space. And many of you know I'm also a practicing attorney. I'm a litigator by day, so the way I like to put it is that I'm always in problem-solving mode, which in my estimation is a good place to be as a board director. I'm running with 3 dedicated women who are as passionate as I am, so this year we are asking for your support. Vote to re-elect Anika Green Watson, Leslie Peterson, Leah Richardson, and to elect Idalia Reyes. We are stronger together. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Lambright.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Lambright. I have lived here amongst you as a neighbor, shareholder, partner, and a friend for 30 years. One of my many successes was stopping an economic bleed that was costing us over $230,000 over a 19-year period. I also wrote a resolution to prevent that from ever happening again. Last year, when I was treasurer, I uncovered a scheme by a trusted employee who was potentially robbing us of hundreds and maybe millions of dollars that led to an ongoing FBI investigation that is still going on. I want to expand on those successes and create so many more successes that you can see, smell, and feel the positive growth in your household directly. As a skilled and successful negotiator, I have been able to bring together the amazing Unity team. That's the First Lady of Team Unity, Grace Solomon, also the man that keeps us locked and focused, Bishop Angelo Rosario, and a man who knows how to strategically complete jobs to perfection, Mr. Keith Logan, and last but not least, of course, our caring, financially strategic young brother who is also very active with the youth for many years here in Co-op City, Mr. Darnell Lopez. We are Team Unity. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to begin with our questions. And again, I just want to caution the audience to please hold your applause until the end of the forum. We've assembled here to hear from the candidates. And just a reminder, you have 1 minute for all the questions. There will be one 15-second lightning round, but we're going to begin with the 1-minute questions. So the first question, what are your priorities when allocating funds, and how do you determine what deserves the most investment? We'll begin with Ms. Reyes.
Hi. Okay. Can you repeat? Okay.
I'm going to repeat the question. Sorry about that. Again, technology. So the first question, what are your priorities when allocating funds, and how do you determine what deserves the most investment? Ms. Reyes.
Okay. So first, since this is my first go, the budget will have to be looked at. I would consult with the rest of the board of directors, obviously, but safety has been a really, really hot problem in our community, and cameras will be one of the issues that we have. Our youth is really in need of having guidance. So that would be another suggestion on maybe having something for the youth to maybe be included so their time is occupied, because we really need to get the guns off the street, and cameras are really, really in need of trying to catch whatever's going on so we can stop it before it unfolds and gets worse.
Thank you. Ms. Cujo.
Hi, yes, Ms. Kajo here. Could you repeat the question? Just because.
What are your priorities when allocating funds, and how do you determine what deserves the most investment?
Okay. Hi, Ms. Kajo here. I think for me, it would begin with safety. I think a lot of us are really advocating that we need better lighting paths so that we can walk around in our community. Some of us come home late at night, and we have children. The other thing is the garage, making sure that that's lit up as well. Packages being stolen, that's something that people are concerned about. I would look at the budget, go over it, see where our maintenance fees are going, and make sure that it's going to the right places and that we're making sure it's budget friendly. Not everything costs a lot of money, but maybe we need to pour more money into certain things like cameras, and who's watching those cameras and what we're doing with that information. And better advertisement as well. So advertisement to me is extremely important in how I would allocate funds, making sure that we have more people here to know what's going on in the community, because there's so many wonderful events that Co-op City hosts.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Okay. Well, let's see. One of the big things I'm always interested in is I don't like a lot of carrying charge increases here. Like I said, our budget was blown up from $286 million to $315 million. Okay, so expect a tremendous increase after this cycle is over. We received $51 million, but after that money is exhausted, guarantee yourself you're going to get a big increase. Now, you have to ask yourself, who voted for those increases? Board directors voted for those increases. Now, you have to ask yourself, if you still want those board directors to be on this board here, okay? If you want board directors with integrity, well, then you're going to think twice before you just vote, just because you receive a fire on your door. Now, I would like to see cameras in our building. Did you know that we had an arrest just yesterday? Two guys when they robbed somebody allegedly from building 5C to building 4C. So we need cameras in our garages and everything. Okay. All right.
Thank you. Mr. Logan.
I think a main priority with budgeting is focusing on getting more out of our elected officials. We have a lot of mandates that get put on us that are unfunded, and we're not being helped with the money to take care of some of these mandates. Other than that, safety, as everyone has said, is a main priority. Strategically placing cameras in areas of high crime, in areas where there's automobile incidents. We don't want our vehicles getting broken into while we're sleeping at night. And then another huge thing that we should focus on is our youth and getting a youth center here. That is my three things of what the priority should be done with budgeting.
Thank you. Ms. Solomon.
Grace Solomon. One of the ways that I think that I would start looking at allocating funds would be first to take a look at our surplus and see how much money we really actually have in order to contribute to some of the things such as maintenance and repair, capital fund projects, also how we can actually access money, how can we get money back into our reserves. So those are the ways that I would try to look at allocating funds, especially working with our general manager who has a 2-year projection. And that's what I would do basically. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lopez.
Darnell Lopez. Yes, now, as far as prioritizing funds, we will look at the main thing we could do, sit with all executives from every head as far as what we have here in Co-op City. Understand exactly what are their costs, Understand if we can save costs there. Now we can go back to a surplus and we can allocate funds exactly where they need to be. A lot of people are saying safety is a main concern. But at the same time, we do have cameras. Are we making the best use of what we have? So we need to exactly see what we have, how we know where we can go. The main thing as far as what would be important and what would not be important would pretty much see how the quality of the life would be. If we were to increase quality of life, I would deem that important. If it doesn't, and it's not with safety, then it wouldn't be. That could be put on the back end. But we could definitely push forward with anything that can improve quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Peterson.
Whenever I think about how I would allocate funds, first and foremost, what comes to mind is our obligation that we have in our bylaws to make sure that we uphold our fiduciary responsibility and keep the location affordable, safe, and secure. So that's always on the forefront. And in doing that, I think what I would like to see budgeted that I think we kind of lack right now is additional skilled training for some of our employees. The unions usually have classes, but I think they've been lacking in offering those classes. Always being affordable and keeping the carrying charge down is the main goal. And along with that, looking at the maintenance and the delay that people are experiencing when they call for repairs to be taken care of.
Thank you. Bishop Rosario.
Yes, I'm always looking at trying to figure out what the departments need in order for them to do their job. So that's looking into budgeting. But most of all is how do we purchase and how can we buy better so that we could do a better job in Co-op City. Usually buying cheaper doesn't make it the right decision because sometimes we buy something inexpensive and it's not going to last the same way as something that costs us a couple of dollars more. But at the same time, then you got to look at what you need for Co-op City because Co-op City is different from every other buildings outside. We have 150-pound pressures here. You can't buy certain tools or certain plungers or waistlines and things like that that are going to burst. So we need to be able to buy smart. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Green Watson.
So the allocation of funds from a board director's perspective is done primarily through budgeting. So Co-op City, as you all know, is a monoline business, which means that we have one primary source of income, and you all know what that is. And for any one of you that reads the CC Times or attend board meetings, you'll be aware that we just completed our biannual budget cycle in which the board and management worked together on the budget to develop a zero-based budget. Which means the budgeting was not developed solely using historical figures, but in conjunction with each department to determine areas of opportunity and budget from the ground up. So engagement in that step of the process is, in my estimation, 90% of how a board director and how I specifically can ensure that we prioritize the things that are important to the community. But I think secondarily, I would like to see us maintain and sustain a long-term reserve fund based on professional forecasting to support unfunded mandates.
Thank you. Mr. Lambright.
Kevin Lambert here. This is not a really hard thing. It seems like it to some people. And when you start talking about the big numbers and millions of dollars, just think how you manage your home. It's that simple. It is that simple, but yet hard at the same time when you're talking about big numbers. I like what Bishop Rosario said because for so long I have been trying to get the board to use our buying power. We should not be buying supplies from Home Depot and getting that 20% discount or buying anything retail here in Co-op City. We have buying power. We should be buying from the same place that they buy from so that we can get those real discounts. And so what I would do is I would hook up with procurement, get the board together with a few board members who are really good in finance and change our buying. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. We're going to move to question 2. How would you explain to the community that we cannot pay for an initiative that is popular but not necessary? Ms. Solomon.
Microphone.
How would I explain to the board,
To the community.
community that we cannot pay for initiatives that is popular but necessary?
Not necessary.
But not necessary. Well, I would just basically take a town hall meeting or maybe even one of our board meetings, allow the cooperators and shareholders to come to this meeting and to hear why we can't actually, what our priorities are and why we're going to stick to our priorities. Even though this initiative is something popular, we have to take care of maintenance, repairs, and some of the other things that's more important. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lopez?
Initially, I would explain to the community that we can't pay and give them all the details why. But at the same time, we're a community, so I'm sure that we can all come together and find another way to actually get it done without having to use budget funds. We have tons of people here who are very intelligent. We will find a way to bring resources together to get to that initiative without having to use budget funds. We couldn't just sit here and just say, no, we can't do it just because we can't pay. We would definitely find another way, regardless if that would be through community outreach, through some type of way with our elected officials. But, you know, if we don't try another way, it wouldn't get done. And we can't allow it to be just one way and that's the only way we could be happy. We have to, the board has 15 members. If we couldn't pay for it, I'm sure with all of our experience here, we could find a way to get those funds somehow. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Peterson?
First and foremost, I want to preface the statement by saying that we are not an organization or a corporation that manufactures something whereby we can say, okay, we're going to raise the price on something so that we can generate the funds. So my feeling is that first and foremost, people are usually more receptive when you tell them the truth and you tell them why. And in many instances, even though something might be a popular thing to do, it's not cost effective to do it. And when we are trying to keep our carrying charges low and we want to not have our carrying charges rise and we want to maintain our fiduciary responsibility, some things are just not feasible to do. We can always, yes, sometimes look and see about getting grants and different things like that, but the funds are not always there and available for us to get readily.
Thank you. Ms. Green Watson?
I think it goes back to my initial comment about the monoline nature of our business and our primary source of income. We all, as shareholders, have an obligation to be good stewards of our fund. And I think I've heard it mentioned a couple of times here, you know, carrying charges are not super popular. But, you know, let's face reality. This is a community that's over 50 years old, and year after year, there's a surprise or another. We have aging infrastructure. So there is a prioritization. And to my colleague's point, something that is popular but is not necessary does not necessarily rise to the level of a priority. I mentioned in last week's edition, the election edition of the Co-op City Times, that one of the benefits of cooperative living is the shared costs. And unfortunately, because it is a cooperative, sometimes those costs are not necessarily things that are higher on your list. But when there are over 15,000 units, there's no way to be a monolith.
Bishop Rosario?
If it's popular, then we should try to work with the community to find people that could help us to find the source that we could bring in the fund to be able to create that program. Because everything doesn't have to come from day-to-day operation. We have 50,000 residents. I believe that, as I said, we have people here that have the knowledge to be able to reach out to other programs. We just finished putting a program together for almost $1.5 million with a gymnasium, and it came out of North Carolina. And the people came in and they put in the funds to be able to create a gymnasium with a football player. So if we have these connections with around us, we could probably reach out to them that they're looking to invest into our properties, and we fill it in with that particular, because we can't use day-to-day operation for our money.
Thank you. Mr. Lambright.
Kevin Lambright here. I think most of you know already, but I'm just going to say it. We are the largest cooperative complex in the world. Okay? So, and there are over 40,000 people here. There will always be someone who says, I want this, I want that, and I want to use something real world, like lobby attendance. Big thing here. Big thing here. Lobby attendants have to be paid for. And prior to COVID, it was costing us $7 to $10 million a year. So, everything else has doubled and quadrupled. So we would have to determine how badly we really want lobby attendants and garage attendants. We really do, if we're willing to pay for it, or we have to find the money outside of us to get it.
Thank you. Mr. Logan.
Keith Logan. I would just make it plain and simple. Just explain to them what the priorities are, why those are the priorities, and kind of move forward. I think everybody that lives here, they should understand what it is. I mean, everybody wants something in particular, and everybody is not going to win at what they want. So if it's a priority, then we'll tell them that that's the priority, and we're moving forward with this, and we'll figure out how to do that at a later time. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kudjoe.
Hi, yes, Shakara Kajo here. This question reminds me of my child who wants things that are not necessary, and I have to then explain to her why there's a budget for the home, and this may not be something that we can have right now. We live in an era of social media. You see things, you want things, but people sometimes don't think of the maintenance to keep those things running. So I believe, as a board member, I would go in and say, this is the reasons why. Explain it to the people. We're not children, we're all adults, and we can understand and comprehend why something may not be able to fit into the budget moving forward. We don't want to necessarily pull things back that we introduced to the community, right? So I think just treating our community like adults and saying, this is something that we may want, and I know it's very popular, but right now we can't have it. Instead, we could do A, B, and C, and maybe you could give me some ideas of what you would like instead.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Okay, I write very good viewpoints every week, and I explain what's going on here in those viewpoints. The biggest issue that we have here is with our budget. We need to reduce and get rid of the waste within our budget, okay? We have 130 vehicles here. Our insurance policies. Do you ever notice that our board meetings occur at the very last moment when these insurance policies are due? Why? Because a lot of these insurance policies are just horrible. We paid some brokers $375,000 to get insurance for us. Horrible policies. The resolutions that we have are extremely bad. Who is voting for these resolutions? Who? It's board members. Okay, so we need good board members on this board here. Directors that have good integrity, that are going to really care about you and the overall aspects of this community here. Okay? So that is what I want to do, okay? Get the fluff out of these budgets here.
Thank you. Ms. Reyes.
Hi. Transparency is very important. You cannot make promises that are empty. We cannot make empty promises. And I think that's where people lose the confidence, is when you start saying, oh, well, look at that, this is important, this is popular, let's try to do it. This is a problem because then people don't believe in what you're saying. So the best thing is to be honest with people, transparent, and really tell them, maybe you look at it, come to the board meeting, bring a suggestion, and maybe it could be looked at. But honestly, this is where people start losing the confidence when you just start making empty promises.
Thank you. We're moving on to question 3 now. Can you give an example of a time you helped manage or oversee a budget? And what did you learn from the experience? So again, can you give an example of a time you helped manage or oversee a budget? And what did you learn from that experience? Ms. Peterson?
I'm gonna go back to when I was a property manager. I managed the largest development for NYCHA in the Bronx, largest development in the Bronx. And so often, we had to go over our budgets. We had to sign off on contracts. And what I learned was that a lot of times, things that you need to pay attention to are in the details. They say the expression is the devil is in the details. And so oftentimes it was very important in doing that budget to pay attention to the scope of work in one of the contracts. That we have a particular budget and we have an amount that we have to, we're bound by, but trying not to go over that budget, you have to pay attention to your scope of work and make sure that when you're signing off on things, that people are not going over or doing things that they should not be doing.
Thank you. Ms. Green Watson.
So there are several examples I can give, but I'll try not to give board-specific ones. I wanted to use the one about the election of last year, but I'm actually going to go with something a little bit closer to the vest. So I mentioned earlier that I am a litigator, and obviously, one of the major components, that drives decision-making in litigation is the costs, right? And so each specific matter that I litigate has a budget, right? And I have this phrase that I use that is like penny wise but pound foolish, right? Where there can be a specific scenario where you're trying to save a penny but you end up spending way more. And so I have this concept, and it would not be appropriate for this board, the question's not asking that specifically, right? I have this concept about nuisance value, and there are just some costs to doing business, right? We are a housing company, and so we have to buy paint, right? That's not something we're going to get away from.
Thank you. Bishop Rosario.
One of the experiences that I have had with creating budgets for development is that sometimes you put a budget together, and by the time you come to do the job, everything has changed, everything has gone up. So you have to be able to consider that you have to have extras, add extras to your budget so that you may be able to fight the changes that are going to come. I just bought a car, and they told me it was going to cost X amount of dollars. By the time I went to buy it, it has changed. It has gone up in price. So I had to make changes. And these are the things that sometimes we learn from our mistakes of not having extra in our budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lambre.
Kevin Lambre here. My wife was a bookkeeper for 17 years, so that's why she does all of the budgeting in my household, and she does it very well. Several years ago, I was the founder of a national nonprofit organization and vice president of that organization, and they felt that since I'm so good with numbers that I would be great at budgeting and the finance, and I recognized right away that it was bigger than me. So what I did was bring all of the people together who were capable and who were already getting paid to do that work. And that's the same thing I would do here in Riverbay, because we pay a lot of people money, a lot of money as consultants, financial, and employees. So I would bring them together and let them do their job.
Thank you. Mr. Logan.
Being an entrepreneur, I have to manage budgets constantly. I do walkthroughs and estimates with potential clients. And when I give them these these estimates and they agree to go forward with the work, I have to manage the budget that I set forth with them. And I have to keep to that as far as ordering paint, labor, making sure everything is accommodated in a timely manner, and keeping to the budget that I set forth, as well as vehicle repairs and everything else that comes along with the business. So I think I'm pretty well versed in handling budgets.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Okay. In my life, I've created hundreds of budgets, okay, for several different entities. So I'm very, very good at budgeting, accounting, finance, everything. I've voted against several budgets that we have here. The current budget that we have here, I voted against it. I published my viewpoints in the paper. Why? Because the budgets were very, very bad. This current budget that we have is just bad. When you read the newspapers and things, that you think it's good, because why? We received $51 million, like I brought up before, from New York State. But when you look at the issues that I pointed out with this budget here, the fluff in it, the waste in here, okay, that is what this community needs. Do you want to continue to get excessive current charge increases? Okay, you need to vote for directors that will not agree to the nonsense that's going on here with these budgets and all the other business practices that we have that are just horrible, that's just bring this community down. That's my point of view.
Thank you. Ms. Kojo?
Hi, yes, Shakara Kajob here. I run a lot of groups, and in those groups, and I'm also a leader in those groups, you have to manage a budget, and then you also have to allocate for things that you miss. So one thing that I think is that cheap isn't always better, right? And then you could also use the resources that you currently have. You don't always have to buy something new. So when it comes to this, my advice or what I've learned along the way is that you can also tap into people that are more knowledgeable, right? So you may not know it all, but there's a lot of people on your team that has the knowledge. And therefore you pull those people in and you work together, and then you can come up with an idea that I think may be more advantageous for everybody in the community and in that group. So that's what I'm saying.
Thank you. Ms. Reyes?
Given my background in corporate finance, we deal with people like that all the time where they have a lot of money, but they also intend that they think that money is going to last forever if they spend it. So we kind of set up a plan for them in order for them not to outlive their money. And it's very important because they pay us to guide them and budget them in order for them to be able to live a long-lasting life if they end up in a nursing home or private sector, with private care. So we're in charge of their money, and that's how we budget their allocations on funding or whatever they decide to do for their grandchildren, for schools and stuff like that. So that's my everyday life for the last 30 years, is budgeting people and making sure that they don't outlive their money.
Thank you. Mr. Lopez?
Darnell Lopez. When it comes to managing a large budget, I also have a finance background. I'm an entrepreneur, I have a business as well. But the main thing is being conservative, watching where every dollar is going, making sure there are controls, that money is not just flowing outside of the budget. That's the main thing here. That's what I've learned, because I've never met anyone who wasn't conservative and they weren't rich. It's just that simple. I think what we need to do here, and the board members need to do, is be more conservative with the money and have a clean eye on it and understand where money is going and why. If we see an opportunity where maybe the quality of what we're doing is not great and we may need to spend some more money for longevity, that is something that needs to be looked at. But at the same time, we have to be on top of where every nickel and dime is going and question it if it doesn't look sufficient. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Solomon?
One of the ways that I have managed the budget is as a building principal. The minute you walk into the door and accept that position, they give you the budget, and all throughout that year, you're doing quality reviews, you're doing hiring, buying, but you're specifically making sure that you're balancing the budget and you're staying on top of every cent that is given to you. One of the things I've learned throughout balancing a budget is that you have to be able to balance the budget and not fall under the red, not fall or owing people. So that's one of the main things that I learned is that you have to stay on top of it. You have to stay on top of that budget, and you have to make sure that at the end of the day, it's balanced.
Thank you. We're going to move to question 4 now. What's your approach to making critical decisions when there's no clear consensus? So again, what's your approach to making critical decisions when there's no clear consensus? We'll begin with Mr. Johnson.
You have to work with people in a positive manner. You have to, first of all, you have to have very, very good business skills, okay? If you don't have business skills, then you're gonna have problems on this board here, okay? You need to elect directors that are very, very astute in how to do their job in a very professional way. People that are going to look, directors that are going to work for the best interests of this community here. People that have very good experience working with every type of problem that you can possibly imagine, okay? You have to have a very good knowledge of budgets. You have to have a very good knowledge about how to talk to people, how to work productively, okay? And that is what I bring to this table here, okay? When you read my viewpoints, you see the way I think. You see the way I work with people. You see the way I handle problems. And you see the good advice that I give to management and this board here. When we have board meetings, you see the comments that I make. They're very, very educational.
Thank you. Ms. Kaja?
Hi, yes, Shigara Kaja. How are you? I would say prioritizing. You know, you have to prioritize what you're going to do when making critical decisions. And also creating goals, right? So you have to create a goal to bring everybody in so they're all on the same page. If there is something that has to be done and everybody's moving in different ways, we may not be all moving to the same exact goal. So I think it's very important whenever you're making a critical decision, everybody's on the same page, we have the same mission, and therefore we're working together. I don't have to sit next to you to work, I know you're working on the same goal. That's my approach for critical decision.
Thank you. Ms. Reyes?
I say don't react or don't make judgments just on impact and also on impact. So questions need to be asked, research needs to take place, and discussion needs to take place. We have to work together because if we're all on different pages, it's just not gonna come together. And if it's in the interest of the shareholders, we really need to take the consideration of what they're doing and what they want into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Logan?
I would say first you have to gather all the information. So without all the information, you can't make an educated decision. Then you would have to assess the collateral damage of making the wrong decision, what that would cost the community. Then you have to find the person on the board that has an area of expertise in that particular area, and then you have to let that person lead, and then you will make a decision based on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Solomon?
Yes, one of the ways that I would work to make a decision, especially if there isn't a consensus, would be basically to look at the history. Look at what life or the experience has taught us. Take a look at surveys. Take a look at stats. Gather the experts together. Listen to the voices and do our research. Also, paying attention to what's fair, what's equal. But the bottom line for me would be making sure that I was able to make a conscious decision. Sometimes those decisions are going to be hard. Sometimes those decisions are going to be unpopular. But the bottom line is you're making a decision for everyone and you're trying to move us forward. This decision should be a conscientious decision that involves all parties, that get us together as best we can, but we're looking for equality, we're looking for fairness, and we're thinking how we're going to problem solve. And then you make that decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lopez.
Yes, Darnell Lopez here. My approach to making a critical decision with no consensus, it would have to be through collaboration. We would need to speak to each other to understand exactly what needs to be done. We need to work with trusted individuals who know about what the situation could be, understand what would work well and what would not, and then we vote on it. And then we can go from that direction on critical decisions. It couldn't be anything rash. We would need to see what the community thinks, what the board thinks, what our executives of Riverbay think. So that would be my approach. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Green Watson.
So a consensus is not a requirement for board decisioning, and specifically is not typically required for critical decisioning. But in the vein of answering the question, I will say that we are a 15-member body for a reason. That's an odd number, right? We all have different backgrounds. We all have different interpretations. Even when you have one data set in front of a group of people, two people can look at the same thing and come up with, different interpretations. But what I think the question may have been trying to get at is how to get buy-in, right? Like how to get the buy-in from your peers. And I think at the core of that would be data sharing, providing information, engaging the proper subject matter experts / skill sets, and that's something we see with, the insurance committee, for example. And then when all else fails, professionalism, right? Because at the end of the day, we're a 15-person board, we have to respect each other, and we have to respect the decision of the body.
Thank you. Ms. Peterson?
In making a decision, there are a lot of things that were mentioned here. One of the things was fact finding, weighing the pros, weighing the cons. A lot of times, I'm the type of person, I like to look at worst case scenario to make sure that, in making any type of decision, I've looked at what is the worst that could happen, because we know what outcome we want, and so that would be the best. In doing that, we do have a 15-member board, and we do need to discuss and share information, and some of us do come with qualifications and expertise in certain areas, and listening to those and taking those as a guide, which I do often, especially in insurance, because we have people in that category, helps make a decision in a critical moment.
Thank you. Mr. Lambright.
Kevin Lambert here. Yes, we do have a 15-member board, but also when we make critical decisions, we have at least 24 to 48 hours before it's time for us to make those decisions. We get it ahead of time. So we have time to do research if it's something we know nothing about, if it's something that we're confused about. And sometimes you get to the point, you're still not sure. So you're gonna listen to your colleagues. And the way I do it is, whoever is making the best argument for the community is what I go for. I never have, and I never will abstain to ride the fence, because the community voted for us to make these crucial decisions, not for us to ride the fence.
Thank you. Bishop Rosario.
I'm so impressed with everyone's answer that they gave, due to the fact that we need to be able to have respect one for another, especially when someone has certain knowledge in certain areas, that we could allow them to lead, and that we will be able to follow, because there's time for us all to lead sometime or another. Once we sit down and have the conversation and we figure out who has the best understanding of that particular problem that we have, then we let that person lead. We follow, we research it, and we vote on it, so that we could become one team working together, not for our own purpose, but for the community.
Thank you. So the next question is going to be our 15-second lightning round question. So if you bear with us, we're going to reset the clock. There won't be obviously any warning. It will just be 15 seconds. I think we're ready. Thank you. So again, you have 15 seconds. Please describe your leadership style in 3 words. Again, please describe your leadership style in 3 words. We're going to begin with Mr. Johnson.
Integrity, honesty, transparency. Those are my leadership styles. Okay? I like to be transparent with this community here. You can go to the Co-op City Times and read my viewpoints every single week, and you'll see some powerful issues that I've discussed.
Thank you. Ms. Kojo?
Hi, Ms. Kojo here. I would say giving clear goals, giving grace, and communication. I think all those are imperative to.
Thank you. Ms. Reyes?
Efficient, passionate, and transparent.
Thank you. Mr. Logan?
Honest, integrity, out of the box.
Thank you. Ms. Solomon?
Yes, my leadership style would be transparency, honesty, and integrity. It's all about being honest and open. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lopez?
Darnell Lopez. Transparency, integrity, last but not least, fiduciary.
Thank you. Ms. Green Watson?
The most unfortunate acronym: fairness, accuracy, and transparent. That.
Thank you. Ms. Peterson?
My leadership style would be collaboration, democracy, and transparency.
Thank you. Mr. Lambright?
Kevin Lambert. Integrity, passion, and honesty.
Thank you. Bishop Rosario?
Listening, and respect.
Thank you. So we're going to move to question 5. These will be 1-minute answers. So if you bear with us for a second while we reset the clock. I'll just read the question while we're resetting the clock. So question 5, how do you prepare for board meetings and ensure you're contributing meaningfully? Again, how do you prepare for board meetings and ensure you're contributing meaningfully? Mr. Lopez, we'll begin with you.
Well, this would be my first time on the board, but what I can say is, as far as being prepared for anything else, I would get to know my board members, understand what my role would be, do research on that role and other roles, try to find things that my board members don't see that I can be more or less of a positive and a plus, not more like a negative or a takeaway, where maybe we could come up with new innovative ways to do different things that we've already done already. Preparing for that, I would take notes, look at the history of the board, look at the history of Co-op City, and see how I can help with everyone, if not be the leader of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, we're resetting the warning clock. Okay. I'm sorry, having a little technical. Just bear with us.
Ms. Solomon.
One of the ways that I would prepare if elected to the board would be by reading the bylaws and understanding the rules and regulations. In addition, I would be doing some research and making sure that I'm prepared to answer questions and prepared to give the best advice as an expert in my field. Depending on the committee, I would work with team members and those with experience in order to provide the best information that would help us to make the best resolutions and come up with the best problems to solve, come up with the best solutions to solve everyday problems. So those will be some of the ways that I would try to be a meaningful board member, by doing my research and being prepared and showing up for every meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Bishop Rosario.
I think that I will try to study the subject first, so I can find myself approved and I can understand it, so that I may be able to have something to share in the decision making that we are all going to be able to make. So if we do not study the subject, we cannot make a clear decision on the subject. So what we wind up doing is arguing and fighting back and forth to prove our point without us studying it, so that we may be able to be knowledgeable enough to make a decision that is going to help the whole group that's making the decision, because one person doesn't make it.
Thank you. Ms. Green Watson.
So I'm a student at heart, and I take a very academic approach, I think, to preparing for board meetings, but I will start with what happens before we even get to the meeting itself, the briefings. So typically for the past couple of years or so, before a board meeting, we'll have a briefing the week before, and we'll get some documents to review that we'll discuss at the briefings. And so I always review the documentation in advance. I do cross-referencing. You probably have all seen me in at least one or two board meetings saying, oh, but resolution XYZ had this other thing in it. And I do cross-referencing because a lot of the work we do is built on an already existing framework. There's not a lot of new body of work typically coming out. And then I review the resolution language, typically jot down any questions that I need answered in advance to feel prepared. So that's a week before we even get to the board meeting. But I just like to be prepared for vote and make sure I understand everything I'm voting on.
Thank you. Mr. Lambright.
Yes, as I said earlier, well, Kevin Lambright here. As I said earlier, as a board member, you get all of the materials ahead of time. So one of the things that I always have done is look at the agenda. And I pick at least two things off the agenda that I really want to study and work with. So sometimes there are things that are not on the agenda that should be on the agenda, and I prepare to add them to the agenda. So these are things that I do before and to get myself ready for a meeting, for a board meeting.
Thank you. Ms. Peterson.
Yes, what happens is that we do get resolutions ahead of time, and we do have briefings, and I'm a reader, so I read. I try to acquaint myself with whatever the resolution is dealing with. I do research, and I ask questions, because often the resolutions that we get, especially these of a technical nature, are coming from some of our departments that are already here in our departments. So I try to ask questions and find out and to learn and to know, be knowledgeable a little bit more so of what the actual resolution that we have entails, so that when I do go into the board meeting, I am able to listen then to often what other questions come about, maybe something that I overlooked or that I didn't think of, so that altogether, my preparation and preparation from others in asking questions and their expertise help me to make a decision.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Okay, I review all of our resolutions before our board meetings, okay? And most of the time I'll say, and I have to say this honestly, a lot of our resolutions simply do not make good business sense. Therefore, this is why this community is getting hit with annual increases. It's just unbelievable. So I point out to the board, this is and management, what the issues are with these resolutions here. I give good business advice to them, constructive business advice, not to criticize, but to help everyone to see how resolutions should be written from a good business standpoint. I want this community to see exactly what's in these resolutions before I write good viewpoints to help this community see. This is not Darryl Johnson just going to argue with the board members today. This is Darryl Johnson trying to teach these board members and management exactly how our resolution should be written for the best interest of this community here. This is what this community needs.
Thank you. Ms. Cudjoe?
Hi, yes, Ms. Pijo here. I would prepare for any board meeting the same way I run my department. I work in IT, and there is endless amounts of meetings that I have to conduct or be a participant of. And one thing is organization, sending out agendas ahead of time, knowing the content, being a SME, meaning knowing that I am an expert in whatever we're going to go over. Being knowledgeable. I am an avid believer in research. So I do a lot of research, especially on things that I'm unfamiliar with. So I don't have to always know everything because nobody knows everything. But if I go in there with an open mind, knowing that I'm gonna go in talking to people that are experts or myself, and not just leave it to whatever they decide. Going in there with a decision on my mind and working with people to come to a conclusion.
Thank you. Mr. Logan?
I would review the materials that were given beforehand, do as much research I can as possible, try to understand the material that's given, and be prepared to make the best decision possible, going with an open mind and keeping the community first, not being prepared to make a decision with an ulterior motive or somebody else's decision or something that will benefit myself or someone else, but think about the 15,372 units that are here and make the best decision possible for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Reyes?
First, being first time on the board, I would definitely prepare myself by reading the material before I go into a meeting. Go in with an open mind, a lot of questions, but I'm also, first and foremost, ready to listen, learn, and really take everything in because I am a team player that's going to really come together to make things really make sense. And whatever knowledge I could bring to the table, I will bring it and I will help them make decisions.
Thank you. We're moving on to question 6. Can you describe a time when you had to resolve a disagreement within the board or with management? Once again, can you describe a time when you had to resolve a disagreement within the board or with management? We'll begin with Ms. Green-Watson.
So that question does not sound appropriate for half of the people sitting on this panel, but I can answer it. And so I will say that, with a 15-person board, disagreements abound, and it is not necessarily the duty of one person or another to resolve them. But I think when disagreements arise, the thing that I try to carry with me is this, we are professionals, right? And so disagreements do not need to be personal. You don't need to have ad hominem attacks. They're not attacks on, personality. I just try to elevate the space in any disagreement that, I'm party to or, privy to. I think just being a professional, keeping the, goals of the corporation in mind when there's a disagreement is half the battle, but there's absolutely no duty of directors to resolve disagreements in the boardroom.
Thank you. Bishop Rosario?
Disagreement is something that cannot be helped in meetings, but to be able to be respectful to each other is very important. Because once we lose respect to each other, it's like losing respect in your own home. You will never be able to resolve a problem. So we should be able to know when to talk and know when to be quiet. At the moment, there are times in an argument that It's better to be quiet and leave it alone and come back and resolve it later on. So I would always try to find a way how to talk about it later if it's at all doable.
Thank you. Ms. Peterson?
I agree with my colleague here that, you know, to answer that question is a little difficult because I mean, I can think of several things. There are things that do happen in the boardroom, and you try to keep a professional stance. But there are times when things we're all passionate about what we believe, and so sometimes your passions overflow, I'll say it that way. And so, yes, I have had occasion to have to bring the temperature down. That's basically what I try to do, is to bring the temperature down. And sometimes it's passion and the request that somebody is making is something that's a simple fix. Okay, we'll do this. Okay, we'll do that, and let's move on. So you just try to, you know, when things happen like that, you just try to, you know, get some decorum back and just get everybody to just, you know, dial it down a bit.
Thank you. Mr. Lambright?
Yes, Kevin Lambright here. Well, I can answer for the board because, you know, what happens on the board, because there's going to be times when you may have an individual who feels that they know more than the attorney, they know more than the accountants, they know more than everybody who comes in the room. They're the expert at everything. And it's real easy to get upset because I realize as I'm getting older, my tolerance for that type of stuff is like really short. So what I do is I sit back, and this is what I've done. I've sat back because we are a 15-member board. That's just one individual. And I sit back because a vote is coming around. And the rest of the board is going to make that decision. That's just one individual. So what I do is I sit back, instead of arguing it, I'll sit back and wait for the vote to come and watch what happens. And usually it happens the way it's supposed to happen.
Thank you. Ms. Kudjoe?
Hi, yes, Ms. Kudjoe here. I would say I would come in, if there was I think of my siblings, right? Fighting happens, disagreements happen. So with the experience of having siblings, I would say that you have to come and listen, willing to listen and understand where that person is coming from, because sometimes people just need to be heard. That's my personality as well, to listen and hear where they're coming from. And then also, nobody's perfect. And I kind of said it previously, but if there is a goal, then does that align with the goals that we have set already? You know, I have patience, I have understanding, and I'm willing to reason with people if they have a disagreement with something. But I don't think it's our job to control people. But I think that we have a duty to listen to one another and be respectful.
Thank you. Mr. Logan?
Yes. I wouldn't take what another board member would say personally. I would try to the best of my ability to work with all other 14 board members if I were elected and do the best I can for the community. I feel like some people might get a little possessive, but the goal is to do the best that we can do for the community. So when we keep that in mind, I know passions might flare up with 15 people with different opinions, but the goal is to keep respect and to work for the betterment of this community and not make it about ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
This is something I do every single week. I write viewpoints every single week. I talk about when we have resolutions, when we have briefing sessions and everything. Let's point out a few things. We have 130 vehicles here. None of these vehicles can leave this community here. Why? Why do we have 130 vehicles? That's just a total waste that we have here. Look at our budget. Our budget, as I mentioned before, increased by $29 million, okay? I talked to management and this board and pointed out, hey, these are the issues with these budgets here. HCR, their budget, they created one of the worst budgets for this community ever. They gave us an 8.1% increase about a year ago. And we had a discussion with them, and I pointed out several issues that were wrong with their budget, okay? okay? So it's working with people, educating people, okay? And trying to help this community to see a better way of conducting business here. That's what I'm about, okay? And trying to make things better for everybody. That's my goal for this community.
Thank you. Ms. Reyes, being the first time being on the board, there'll be 15 people, and there's a lot of opinions. I've been in a boardroom at work, and I know that things go different ways, sideways, but you all have to be respectful of each other and also keep an open mind and take in different people's opinion and then come together with a resolution. Fighting and disrespecting each other is just not normal to do that. We all gotta come together for the sake of the community, and they depend on us because we are their representatives.
Thank you. Ms. Solomon.
Yes, one of the conflicts or disputes that I had with management happened to be when there was parking on the Greenway. And back in those days, I used to drive a luxury car. Now I'm driving a little Ford Escort. But back then, I was noticing that my car was being used. And this was a dispute, this was a conflict. So I started complaining or bringing my complaints to our building association. Then I advanced up to our finally advancing up to our board of directors. In the end, I did find a resolution, but it was following a chain of command in order to get that resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lopez.
Darnell Lopez. Now, with regards to resolving disagreements, first and foremost, we have to be respectful. Secondly, we need to have an open mind. And thirdly, you need to be able to listen to understand and not respond. Clearly something a lot of people miss. But at the same time, you can always use a whiteboard. You can write down your pros, you can write down your cons, and collectively come together to make a solution. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now at our last question, question 7. The last question, how would you make the community resilient and future ready? Again, how would you make the community resilient and future ready? So we're going to begin with Ms. Cudjoe.
Of course. Hi, Ms. Cudjoe here. I think it's important that we continue to do community outreach. We have a lot of young people who are entrepreneurs, who are techs, who are into a lot of things. And I don't think we have enough clubs for them here in Co-op City. So I think that including them in the community and giving them that foundation to say, you know what, build your business here, right? Why not pour into our own community and pour into our own children? There's also moms, dads, parents, singles. Let's give them mommy groups. Let's give them man clubs. Let's increase the clubs so that more people are excited to come home to this community. I think that's important. Communicating. There's many ways in which we could communicate with our people. Yes, there is the newspaper. There is. But there is a lot of new ways in which we could communicate with our Co-op City cooperatives.
Thank you. Mr. Logan.
I think we need to focus on our youth. I think that to have a thriving community, you would know by what the condition of the youth is. I don't feel like we have enough programs for our youth. I think we need to focus on that. I think we definitely need like a YMCA or a community center here to help cultivate our youth. I feel like the future of this community is all wrapped into our youth, so that should be one of the primary focuses. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Okay, the biggest issue that we're going to be faced with in the upcoming years, should be about 3 to 4 years, is that new transition is going to come in here. When that train station comes in here, the Section 5 citizen section is going to change like you've never seen before, okay? You're gonna have folks that will want to buy up this community here, all right? And so therefore we have to maintain our community affordable. This place has to stay affordable. We have to reduce the waste within our budgets. We have to keep our carrying charges low so that people will be able to afford to stay here. Okay, you have to understand people are going to be looking to buy this Section 5 out first and the rest of the community up. Everybody, we have to get on the same the wagon as far as it's concerned. Also, we need to set up programs like daycare programs. These rooms that we sit in right now are empty all day long. We can have daycare programs in here. We can have programs for youths, okay? There's a lot of things that we need to do here, so
Thank you. Ms. Reyes.
We have to start with bringing back the community, the confidence in the community. If we can prove that, we can become resilient. But really, our youth is really going away, and there's not enough activities for them to get into, so they have a lot of downtime and they get into trouble. So before anything else, and like you said, the train station is coming. But if we don't keep ourselves together as a community, someone's gonna take us over because it's an easy buy. And you know what? Again, the confidence has to come. I've talked to a lot of people this past weekend at the block party, and a lot of them are like, I don't have faith, I don't really wanna vote, I don't want to do any of that. And I said, you cannot do that because we're gonna lose. We have to become a unity in our community.
Thank you. Mr. Lopez.
Darnell Lopez. Keeping our community resilient and future ready. Number one, like all everyone said, utilize our community. Definitely do collaboration. But what I want to touch on is basically the youth are our future. We need to invest in them. We need to create programs for their future. We have a high school right here. We need to create programs where there are slight internships to the best companies. The best companies do them now with other schools. We are the largest community. We can do those same things. We can dictate the future for our youth by these programs through workshops, through tech, through service, through coding. It's so many different things that we can do to help our youth with what we already have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Solomon.
Yes, some of the ways that I would be working to keep our community resilient and future ready would be taking a look at our financial management, staying on top of providing updates to our shareholders and being transparent in regards to open communication. I am a grant writer and I would be writing grants in order to keep money in our pockets and keep our community affordable. Also paying attention to the changes that's coming in our future, and such as our Metro North Station, keeping that a full access for all of our constituents. And in addition to maintenance and building infrastructure, our buildings are sinking. We have to stay on top of it. And lastly, state-of-the-art technology and keeping our students and children first.
Thank you. Bishop Rosario.
Yeah, I think that it is important to find a way to unite all the different groups that we have here, whether the houses of worship that are here, the different organizations, to work together to be able to help the young adults that are here. We could do this. We have a lot of retirees here that have a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge that they're just sitting back and can't use it. When we could be using them to be able to help our young people and help those parents that have children that are trying to bring them up here. Everything is not about money, it's about volunteering. How do we volunteer to make sure that our community becomes stronger and that we could take care of each other? If we think about throwing money at everything, that's what the government does. It does not work. The community is a family that works together and that can make changes. That is our future.
Thank you. Ms. Peterson.
Okay, I'm going to say this. I said it at the last forum, but since I've been on the board, I've been a proponent of having a youth center here, a youth center. I want there to be vocational training in that youth center for our youngsters and for things that are going to be, prepare them for the future. The other thing that I want to make mention of is to make us future ready. We have a board of directors election coming up and we need to vote, but even more so, we need to vote. We need to go to precinct meetings. We need to go to community board meetings. We need to stay abreast of what's going on in our community and around our community, because people are coming and they're making changes in our community we don't know about. We have a diamond here, and if we want to keep the diamond, we need to become more engaged in what is going on and vote, okay? Vote, because your elections in your community are even more important than your national election. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lambright.
Yes, Kevin Lambright here. We have a lot of departments here in Riverbay itself. We should have an apprenticeship program for our youth, not only for our youth, but also there are seniors who are retired professionals here who have a lot of skill set that we are not taking advantage of. Some of them just want something to do, and we can give them that and putting them together with some of our youth. Also, what we should do is open up for an auxiliary police department or group of auxiliaries here in Co-op City that are trained, because we're always talking about public safety. Public safety, sometimes there's enough officers that in the last 10 years there haven't been enough officers. And if we had auxiliary trained, that would help out a great deal. Also, a resource committee that puts money not only back into Riverbay, that money that comes from outside, but also in the pockets of shareholders directly.
Thank you. Ms. Green Watson.
I think one of the ways we can make sure that we are being resilient and future ready is to ensure our affordability and viability, which starts with investing in our two biggest assets, which personally I think are our property and our people. I'm part of the sandwich generation, so 3 generations of my family live here. So step 1 is protecting what we already have. That's stuff, right? Capital investments. Step 2, I think, is protecting our shareholder interests. There's no reason this room shouldn't be overflowing. As my colleague mentioned, we're in an election season, and our election is one of the easiest ways to make an investment in this community via staffing the board with working directors, independent directors, who are going to work on our behalf to keep this community going. And then step 3, which a lot of people have mentioned already, my colleagues specifically, and I agree with, is making investments into what's to come. Leave something for the next generation. I believe we need a youth center. I believe we need vocational programs.
Thank you. Thank you all. Before we go to closing statements, I just want to ask the audience to please offer your applause to all the candidates for their willingness to answer your questions on the same stage today. So thank you. We're going to go to closing statements, and it's 1 minute for closing statements. So we're going to start with Ms. Reyes.
In closing, as we move forward, I hope to see shareholders actively participating and voting. Like Anika said, this room should be overflowing. If we want change, it begins with us. As shareholders, I really want to see change for the better. And also, with my experience of 30 years in corporate finance, I bring a valuable asset to this board. I'm passionate and I'm transparent, and also I believe in improvement. I believe we can excel further. This is a vast community, and we must strive to do better. If you want change, show up and vote for the Stronger Together team. Re-elect Leslie Peterson, Anika Green Watson, Leah Richardson, and myself, Idalia Reyes.
Ms. Cujo.
Hi, yes, Ms. Cujo here. As we look toward the future of Co-op City, one thing is very clear. Change is not only necessary, it's healthy and it's good. And I'm ready to take the reins, not to replace what's been built, but to build upon it. I promise to lead with integrity and with care and a fresh energy. We need to start researching and reaching out to our youth. And no, I don't mean me. It's time to really see the value in this community and recognize it as the foundation of our dreams. Imagine our youth and our seasoned entrepreneurs launching their businesses right here in Co-op City by providing the necessary information to them so they can get started right now. I'm ready to lead and be honorable in my journey. I ask you to invest in me with your vote, Shakara Kaja. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Okay, good, thank you. All right, shareholders get on this board, and you know what? Unfortunately, they just disappear. Can you call them? No. Can you read their viewpoints? Can you go back to the Co-op City Times and read their viewpoints? No. Why? They don't write viewpoints. Do they have good business skills? Do they work with management? Do they vote for everything that management wants them to vote for? Yes, that's a problem, okay? So you need more directors that are gonna work for your best interests. You need more directors that will not vote for some of the worst resolutions ever. Budgets ever. Look at this current budget I pointed out there this year. This budget is horrible. So you need board directors that have your best interest in mind, okay? And you need board members that can analyze resolutions, analyze budgets, and write good viewpoints to help everyone in this community to see this is the direction that we should go in, all right? So if you vote positively for good board directors that have good business skills, that we can make.
Thank you. Mr. Logan.
I'm Keith Logan, and as a professional tradesman and entrepreneur, I've gained valuable expertise that I'm eager to share with this board. If given the opportunity, I'll be honored to contribute my skills and experience to help shape the future of our community. I believe my unique blends of hands-on experience and business acumen would make me a valuable asset to this board. I'm excited about the prospect of working together to build a brighter future for our community. I'm looking forward to your vote in serving this community I love. Let's work together to create a sustainable, thriving neighborhood for all. Please vote for me, Keith Logan. The very wise and incomparable Kevin Lambright. Everybody's favorite bishop, Bishop Angelo Rosario. The eloquent Grace Solomon and the undeniable Darnell Lopez. Vote for Team Unity. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Solomon.
Good evening. Shareholders, my name once again is Grace Solomon, and I have served this community as a building president, as a director of instruction for the NAACP daycare, and also as a member of the Co-op City Baptist Church. As a person living with a physical disability all my life, I understand the importance of community activism. I am also acutely aware of how important it is to have a voice at the table. As a candidate for the board of directors, I promise to keep Co-op City safe and affordable. I promise to look after our seniors, and I promise to keep this community green, clean with technology. Please vote for me, Grace Solomon. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lopez.
In closing, I plan to bring a strategic perspective to the board, focusing on fiscal responsibility and sustainable growth for the community. My vision includes creating partnerships with organizations that can offer resources and mentorship to young residents, preparing them for success. As the election approaches, I encourage all of you to participate in the voting process and share your ideas for the community's future. I believe that collaborative efforts between the board and shareholders is essential for fostering a thriving and inclusive environment in Co-op City. Vote Team Unity, the powerful Kevin Lambright, the divine Bishop Angelo Rosario, the architect Keith Logan, the accomplished educator Grace Solomon, and me, Darnell Lopez. Vote Team Unity. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Peterson.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I poured my heart into this community, not just as a resident, but as someone who shows up, follows through, and gets things done. When you call me, I call back. When something's stuck, I step in. And I don't stop until there's a resolution.
I've secured funding for my building that we use for Rivers Run Community Garden and other community events. I've supported policies that help keep our homes affordable, and I've built strong, respectful relationships with Riverbay staff, city officials, and most importantly, with all of you. So if you're looking for someone who leads with experience, listens with care, and fights with determination, I'm ready to keep doing the work. I am Leslie Peterson, humbly asking for you to vote for me, along with Anika Green-Watson, Adalia Reyes, and Leah Richardson. Let's keep Co-op City strong, safe, and united together. Thank you.
Thank you. Bishop Rosario.
Team Unity is making me feel like I have a future. Even though that my age is way up there. But having Keith Logan and Danielle Lopez and Grace Solomon and Kevin Lambright, younger than me, we know that we have a future because with them leading, we will be blessed and we will have more knowledge and more young people will come on board. I'm ready to retire from this also, to be able to give it over to those young people that are coming along to make Co-op City affordable as it is and make it even better and greater with different kinds of programs with our young adults that are living here in Co-op City right now. And I know that they'll take care of us old folks, the seniors, that we are the ones that paved the way for them. So may God bless them and thank you very much for this. Just vote and vote for everyone.
Thank you. Ms. Green-Watson.
Someone asked me 2 weeks ago why I decided to run for the board again. Full disclosure, this is not someone who lives in Co-op City. She said, it sounds like a huge commitment and you're still young. Now, whether or not I'm still young is quite debatable, but it was a good question and it's one that anyone seeking election should be able to answer. I've often described my work on the board as a labor of love. I truly get passionate when I see the impact that our advocacy as a board has and when I'm able to leverage my professional toolkit to advance our shared goals. Words without action are empty calories. They will not sustain you. When I'm in the boardroom, you can rest assured that you have an independent thinking advocate, full stop. I may be a board director, but I'm a shareholder too. And that is why I'm asking for your support in re-electing me, Anika Green-Watson, Leah Richardson, and Leslie Peterson, and in electing Adalia Reyes. Thank you for your time. We are all stronger together.
Thank you. And Mr. Lambright.
Kevin Lambright here. Now, we've heard a lot this evening. Simple things, simple things. Sometimes we get caught up in personalities and mixed messages. I know that can be confusing, but I ask you to read between the lines because we are a smart community. Some of the fixes here, like I said before, are an easy fix, but some only sound easy. You want to elect people who know the difference. You don't have to be a genius to know that when you have a simple problem like a leak or a flooring issue, that you want a speedy resolution to fix that problem. You know it doesn't take charm school for someone to be polite on the other end of a phone call, especially when you're having a crisis. Home should be our sanctuary, our place of solemn refuge, a problem-free environment where we leave all the pressures of the outside world outside. So I'm asking you to make the right decision, the right choice, and vote for Team Unity. Kevin Lambright, Darnell Lopez, Keith Logan, Grace Solomon, Bishop Angela Rosario.
Thank you.
Team Unity.
Thank you. Candidates, thank you. The League of Women Voters appreciates your willingness to answer questions from voters thoughtfully and candidly, and in civil discourse with your challengers. And we salute your commitment to serving. So thank you. Let's give them all a round of applause. And thank you also to everyone in the audience. Thank you for your thoughtful questions and for spending the evening educating yourself about the candidates. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Leah with the election committee to close the evening.
Good evening, everyone. I am so happy to see all of you tonight, and I really hope that all of you enjoyed tonight's forum. I would like to say thank you. This column. I would like to say thank you to our student volunteers in the back. Can we please give them a hand? I would also like to thank our election committee member volunteers. Can we also give them a hand? And most importantly, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for moderating tonight's event. Can we give them a hand? Our next forum, which is really important, it's our third and final forum, is going to be located in the Bartow Center, room 31, on Tuesday evening, May 27th. You will have time to send in your questions. You have sent in some great questions that the league has been able to associate and ask the different candidates tonight. One thing I would love to remind everyone is that this year's election, Monique and I, we are very proud to have been selected to run this election. What makes it most proud for us is that we're going to provide in-person voting. We have not done in-person voting for a very long time. I think when we used to have machines in our lobbies. They won't be in our lobbies, but we will have in-person voting at the different community centers, and we are so excited about that. We will also have the mail-in ballots. You'll still be able to mail in your ballots. We will let you know what color the envelopes are so you can look out for them. We're going to also let you know when the ballots are in the mail. And lastly, we're going to have drop-off ballot places where you can put your ballot in. We're going to have a ballot box in each one of the community centers, and you can drop off your ballot any time of the day. They will stay there throughout the entire election process. So I'm really, really excited about that. One other thing I would like to share with everyone is this year's quorum. It is so important for us to reach quorum. Our quorum this year is 5,041. Now we have 15,000 units. We need 5,041 people to vote. We do not want to pay for an extension. Remember, our elections, we pay for that. We are a self-sustaining corporation first, right? We are a corporation, and we pay for everything that we have. So it's going to be really important that you get out there, we ask for your help, just talking to your neighbors, encouraging each other to vote. Just please vote so that we can meet quorum. It is so, so, so important. Monique and I have worked so diligently along with our election committee members. We have 30 people. Can we give our election committee members a hand? We have 30 election committee members, and we are so excited. Their ideas, the way they want to engage the community, and we just want to say thank you to everyone. In closing, I just want to ask the candidates, thank you as well. As you begin your campaign and continue to campaign around the community, I just wanted to remind you of two important items in our election rules. So when we talk about in Section D, campaigning standards of conduct, it's actually number 2, last sentence in the election rules. Candidates and their supporters are not allowed to post campaign material on New York City property. It's very important. You should not be posting our advertisement on light posts or mailboxes, anything that belongs to the city. It is a violation of city, state, and federal law. So I just want to remind the candidates of that. And lastly, as the candidates continue to campaign around the community, I just wanted to remind them the use of Co-op City facility for campaign activity under Section E of our election rules, which say no candidate or organization may use the facility or public meeting areas, community rooms, lobbies, hallways, mail rooms, building association rooms, or similar areas of the Riverbay Corporation for campaign rallies or activities. So please remember, as you are helping your candidates campaign, because we do have a lot of people in the community that's helping your candidates to run, please be mindful that once you step into the Co-op City property, you cannot hand out literature. You can certainly hand it out as you walk around, as people are coming into the buildings, you're free to do that. We want every single candidate here to have a fair opportunity in this election. So please help them campaign, and please, let's just continue to follow the rules. Thank you so much, everybody.